This is the Neoliberal Round podcast.
Okay, guys, sorry for I had a problem with my system keeps just closing. I'm not sure why. Some power issue. I'm not sure what's going on. So please excuse me for that. I'm not sure what's going on with my system. But we want to pick up from where we left off. I'm gonna share my screen momentarily. Let me just pause the recording. Recording. Welcome back. Welcome back to the class. We're continuing with sharing the timeline of the Caribbean. We looked at the Caribbean generally. Now we are going to be looking at just some important timeline. Oops. (1804) Haiti. The year is 1804. The territory is Haiti. What major development happened in 1804 as it relates to Haiti? They became the first independent Black republic after defeating France in the Haitian Revolution. France doesn't like that, probably back then, but now, if you go to the World Cup, they have all these African Americans, they have all these Black players, or African players. 1844, territory, Dominican Republic. The major development, they declared independence from Haiti, that's DR. 1865, the territory is Dominican Republic. The major development is that they are restored independence from Spain, following the Restoration War. 1890, and please remember, in 1861 there was the annexation from Spain. In 1898, Puerto Rico, the territory is Puerto Rico. What happened? What's the major development in Puerto Rico in 1898? In 1898, Spain ceded Puerto Rico to the United States following the Spanish-American War. So there's a war between Spain and America, and Puerto Rico, and I guess they decided Puerto Rico became a U.S. territory and remains under U.S. control after that war. 1952, Puerto Rico again. Puerto Rico became a commonwealth of the United States with limited self-government, but no full sovereignty. The people in Puerto Rico, they can't vote. They're part of the Caribbean, okay? But they are territory of the U.S. They can't vote for U.S. president in Puerto Rico, but they can vote for local government. Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens, but cannot vote in U.S. presidential elections unless residing on the mainland. Okay, so if they reside on the mainland, they can vote. 1958 to 1962, the British Caribbean, the West Indies Federation attempted to unite British Caribbean colonies into one independent federation, but collapsed in May of 1962. That's major. It would be so refreshing if that had happened, man. Anyways, that's between 1958 and 1962. West Indies Federation attempted to unite British Caribbean colonies into one, but collapsed in 1962. Why? Because they couldn't agree in terms of governance. Okay, that's one of the main reasons. They couldn't agree in terms of governance and in terms of resource sharing and so on. 1962, Jamaica gained independence from Britain on August 6, 1962. August 6, 1962. But retained the British monarch as head of state under a constitutional monarchy. Okay? That's 1962. 1962 again, Trinidad and Tobago got independence. Trinidad and Tobago gained independence from Britain on August 31st, 1962, initially retaining the British monarch as head of state. Notice I said the word initial, because that that has changed. That has changed. Okay. There's something I was looking for, which in 1966, Barbados gained independence from Britain. So Jamaica first in the British Caribbean, then Trinidad and Barbados in 1966. From Britain on November 30th, 1966, while retaining the British monarch as head of state. That has changed. Barbados is no longer a constitutional monarchy. Okay. Jamaica is a constitutional monarchy. They've been trying, but I'm not sure what's going on. What's taking them so long? 1966, Guyana gained independence from Britain on May 26, 1966. 1970, Guyana again became a cooperative republic, replacing the British monarch with a president as head of state. President as head of state. They replaced. So that happened from 1966. Guyana gained independence. By 1970, they totally got rid of the British monarchy. 1970, Trinidad and Tobago became a republic, replacing the British monarch with a president as head of state. Okay, so Trinidad and Tobago also got rid of the Queen, or got rid of the monarchy. 1973, Bahamas gained independence from Britain, but retained the British monarch as head of state. 1974, Grenada gained independence from Britain, and they retained the British monarch as head of state. 1975, Suriname gained independence from the Netherlands. Okay, they gained independence from the Netherlands, Suriname. 1978, Dominica gained independence from Britain, Dominica, and became a republic with a president as head of state. Dominica gained independence. That's different from what we Dominica Republic. 1979, Saint Lucia gained independence from Britain while retaining the British monarch as head of state. Saint Lucia was also, they also speak a little bit of, their patois is like, they part some of their language. They have a group of people that speak French, like a French kind of a patois, because the French had at one time had controlled Saint Lucia. So their culture is kind of interesting because they have, just as how Jamaica had the Spanish and then the British, then St. Lucia was British and then Spanish, and they was quite interesting. 1979, we got independence. 1979, St. Vincent and the Grenadines got independence from Britain, also retaining the monarchy, constitutional monarchy. 1981, Antigua and Barbuda got independence. 1981, Belize gained independence from Britain while retaining the British monarch as head of state as well. St. Kitts and Nevis gained independence and remain and retaining the British monarch as head of state. 1986, Aruba got independence. Aruba gained independence, separate status within the Kingdom of Netherlands, but did not become independent. So they gained separate status within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, but they did not become independent. They just gained separate status. Somebody's going to present on Aruba, so you can probably talk about what the separate status as it gets independence. If nobody touch on that, I will talk about it, but I don't want to give away too much groups that are going to present. What is this to be separate status as against independence? Please raise that in your presentation. 2007, Puerto Rico held continued discussions and a referenda regarding political status. They wanted to make a decision as to whether or not to become independent, but they voted to stay as a U.S. territory in 2007. 2012, another referendum again. They were dissatisfied with territorial status, but there was no majority support for full independence. 2017 again. I mean, they've had so much referendum to decide as to whether or not they should remain with the U.S. And every time they had a referendum, the decision was majority of Puerto Ricans decide to remain as a territory of the US. I wonder why. They had another one in 2020. Another referendum resulted in a slim majority. I think they want to stay because maybe because I'm not sure why they want to stay. They do not want independence. Maybe because it's easy for them to travel to the US. I don't know. 2021, Barbados officially became a republic. So now, 2021, as of 2021, Barbados officially became a republic. On November 30th, 2021, removing the British monarch as head of state and appointing a Barbadian president. President in Jamaica. Jamaica remains constitutionally independent, but still recognizes the British monarch as ceremonial head of state through the Governor General. Republican transition discussions continue. So they are discussing. They've been having discussions for a while, but they have not had a referendum. I don't think so, as to whether or not they want to. I mean, I think we did. I can't remember if we did. If Jamaica did, I can't remember. I'll have to check. But I don't think we actually. Because I think it's because of the JLP and the PNP that has helped to thwart. And I'm telling you, having these two party system has slowed progress and major developments in some countries. I mean, I don't know why there's been so much contention between the two that makes everything slow. Barbados, independent nation, retained the British monarchy. Belize, an independent nation, but they remain British monarch as ceremonial head of state. Same thing with Antigua and Barbuda, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, Cayman Islands is a British. Cayman Islands, prior to 1962, Cayman Islands was part of Jamaica. Cayman Islands was a parish, with the 15th parish. Jamaica had 15 parishes at one time before 1962. Cayman was a parish, with a Jamaican parish, with a part of Jamaica. But when we got independence, they decided that they didn't want independence. So because they remain with the British ever since. The British Virgin Islands, they are British Overseas Territory. Turks and Caicos, British Overseas Territory. Anguilla, British Overseas Territory. Montserrat, British Overseas Territory. Martinique remains an overseas department and region of France. Martinique. Guadeloupe, who is from Martinique, again, Frantz Fanon and Guadeloupe. He's from, I think, Guadeloupe, Amamazama, Guadeloupe, Afrocentric paradigm. So the French Guyana remains an overseas department of France. Curacao remains a constituent country within the Kingdom of Netherlands. You know, the Netherlands have several different constituent countries, and Curacao is one of them. They were in the World Cup. Jamaica drew with Curacao, a very small country within the Netherlands. Saint Martin is also part of, but Netherlands have quite a few countries, right? Yeah, Saint Martin is part of the Netherlands. Aruba is part of the Netherlands. There we go. All right. So that is that. Now I'm going to share my screen again because I'm going to play a video. I'm going to share a video. Next, we're going to talk about. I want to share a video for you guys, which you guys might appreciate. Share my. It's small. It's a small video. Really, very small. Is this it? Yeah. Share my screen. My sound. Share computer sound.
This lecture is about C.L.R. James' book, The Black Jacobins, Toussaint Louverture, and the Saint-Domingue Revolution. I'm D. Elizabeth Glasgow, and I'm your lecturer for this series. C.L.R. James' book, The Black Jacobins, is a powerful and definitive history of one of the most important but under-recognized events in history, the slave revolution that took place in Haiti from 1791 until 1803. The book is important not only as a historical account of the event, but as one of the very first examples of history told from the point of view of the oppressed population, in this case the slaves of the island. James was a politically engaged journalist from Trinidad, and he spent considerable time in the book discussing the truly awful conditions of slavery in Saint-Domingue, as Haiti was then called. He looked at before the revolution and the remarkable leadership qualities of the slave-turned-revolutionary Toussaint Louverture. James' outlook in the book was very much influenced by Marxist philosophy, and this is what set the book apart from other accounts by other scholars of the Haitian Revolution. James wrote, "The revolt is the only successful slave revolt in history, and the odds it had to overcome is evidence of the magnitude of the interests that were involved." Beyond the bottom-up history, that is, history told from the perspective of the marginalized rather than those of the elite status or politically influential members of society, readers of the Black Jacobins will gain a greater understanding of the political dynamics of the late 18th century. Now, this includes not only the events in Saint-Domingue, but the influence of the revolutions that took place in both America and France, and the key role that slavery played in these politics. When you're looking at a book like The Black Jacobin, you will be able to gain a fuller appreciation of the truly barbaric practice and the nature of the economies that were built from that practice of slavery. Now, the book is a radical work, and so it will appeal to readers who lean towards revolutionary politics, but it is also a work that is very engaging to a wider audience. So let's look at the work in the context of how it was written. The book, The Black Jacobins, is an example of what is called history from below. Now, although the term itself denotes works of history told from the perspective of people of low social and economic status, it was only used by historians long after The Black Jacobins was published in 1938. James' book was one of several works that inspired the field of subaltern or post-colonial studies. Here, historians from the branches of social inquiry, which deal with the various legacies of the colonial period, write history from the point of view of the subalterns being those groups that have been excluded from traditional power structures and opportunities, like slaves and peasants. James' historians from the branches of social inquiry, which deal with the various legacies of the colonial period, write history from the point of view of the subalterns being those groups that have been excluded from traditional power structures and opportunities, like slaves and peasants. James's approach to history, and indeed the whole of the subaltern school, cannot be understood without appreciating the works of Karl Marx, whose idea of history was shaped by the German philosopher Hegel's notion of the dialectic, a word that denotes the tension created between an idea or concept and the reactions that rise up in opposition to it. This antithesis eventually leads to a kind of synthesis, a fusion of the two ideas. Karl Marx built on this idea of the dialectic to develop his notion of historical materialism, where history is pushed forward by economic forces. The word materialism here should not be confused with its contemporary meaning, which is a focus on material possessions. Rather, Marx believed that the driving force of history was how the means of production, or the tools and resources used to produce goods and services, how those are owned and organized in any society. For example, in a capitalist society, most economic activity is in private hands, and businesses act in a way that promotes the profits and interests of their owners. As Marx wrote in the German Ideology, this mode of production must not be considered simply as being the production of the physical existence of the individuals. Rather, it is a definite form of activity of these individuals, a definite form of expressing their life, a definite mode of life on their part. As individuals express their life, so they are. He went on to write in the 18th Brumaire of Louis Bonaparte, men make their own history, but they do not make it as they please. They do not make it under self-selected circumstances, but under circumstances existing already, given and transmitted from the past. The tradition of all dead generals weighs like a nightmare on the brains of the living. So in other words, Marx believed that individuals tended to see the world according to their role within the means of production, as business owners, for example, or as wage earners. The interests of those often competing groups is what drives history, according to Marx. Antonio Gramsci extended Marx's theory to the discussion of culture, and in doing so laid the groundwork for subaltern history, or history from below. Put simply, Gramsci developed a theory of cultural hegemony, stating that the dominant social class, for example the bourgeoisie or the business owners, not only had a big influence over the economy, but they had a big influence over a society's culture as well. Gramsci believed that the creation of an alternative or proletarian culture, that is, a culture of the workers promoting revolutionary ideas, that these were necessary for the overthrow of capitalism and the rise of the communist state. So to some extent, this is also the goal of subaltern studies, of which the Black Jacobins plays a very early part. Subaltern studies represent the history of groups excluded from the dominant culture. While James was strongly influenced by a Marxist approach to history, the Black Jacobins is not rooted in any particular academic school or debate. Rather, it emerged from the tense political environment of the late 1930s. C.L.R. James was a keen observer of both political events and cultural developments, and there is some evidence that the author was inspired by his immediate surroundings in London while he was writing The Black Jacobins. In The Black Jacobins, C.L.R. James asks a central question: how did a group of uneducated slaves in what is today Haiti successfully overthrow their colonial masters and defeat the invasions that followed from France, from Britain, and from Spain? As the only successful slave revolt in history, the events in Saint-Domingue warrant attention. As an historian, James' aim is to describe the slave revolt from the point of view of the revolutionaries and their leader, Toussaint Louverture. Throughout James's historical investigations, he is asking another question as well. What is the nature of revolution? And what are the conditions in which the proletariat, or the workers, can overthrow those responsible for their oppression? Although James does not explicitly frame his discussion in these terms, his political viewpoint informs discussion of history. James's Marxist beliefs also place the book squarely in the heart of the political conflicts of the late 1930s. As he writes, the violent conflicts of our age enable our practiced vision to see into the very bones of previous revolutions more easily than heretofore. He refers to the violent upheavals going on across Europe at the time, the eve of World War II. He notes the revolts held by the fascist leader in Spain when he writes of Franco's heavy artillery, and refers to the mass repression in the Soviet Union when he writes of the rattle of Stalin's firing squads. Such is our age, and this book is of it, with something of the fever and the fret. He writes in The Black Jacobins, The writer has sought not only to analyze, but to demonstrate in their movement the economic forces of the age, their molding of society and politics, of men in the mass and individual men, the powerful reaction of these on their environment at one of those rare moments when society is at boiling point and therefore fluid. As a work of history, the Black Jacobins builds upon previous works on the Revolution in Saint-Domingue and the conditions there more generally, much of it published in French. These works include scholarly histories, first-person accounts, official archives, and travel books. James provides an annotated bibliography of these works in the book, in which he writes, "Despite the importance and interest of the subject, it was for long difficult to find in English or French a comprehensive treatment of the Saint-Domingue Revolution. Both in insight and objectivity, the Haitian writers are easily the best." James draws on a long list of sources, notably Colonel Henri de Poyon Belize, and his history of 1899, Histoire militaire de la Révolution de Saint-Domingue, or A Military History of the Revolution of Saint-Domingue. James writes of this book, "This is the official French account. Poyon misunderstands the whole campaign, both the offensive plan of Leclerc and the defensive plan of Toussaint. There is no limit to the brazenness of these imperialist historians." Despite disagreeing with Poyon's version of history, James finds the historian to be a careful scholarly writer, and is able to build on Poyon's work. This is a theme in James's work. Though he frequently disagrees with the work of scholars who went before him, he finds that he can use their work in his own. In an important way, James's history of the Haitian Revolution builds on the work of the scholars of another revolt that started barely 2 years earlier, the French Revolution. As he notes in the Black Jacobins, it is impossible to understand the Saint-Domingue Revolution unless it is studied in close relationship with the Revolution in France. Fortunately, the French historical school of the French Revolution is one of the greatest historical schools of Western civilization. James lists in the book several French historians who inspired his own study of the Haitian Revolution. They exposed the economic foundations of the French Revolution. They wrote about the personalities of the main actors and covered the politics of the period. James credits these influences in the book on the Haitian Revolution. I have sought all through to show the direct influence of the French Revolution on events and leading personalities in Saint-Domingue. It appears from James's biography that the awareness of and interest in this history was sparked when he moved to Europe in the 1930s. In that sense, the intellectual basis of the work is James's attempt to unify his understanding of West Indian culture, that is, the culture of the islands of the Caribbean Sea, and history with the debates over history and politics going on at the time in England and France. So in other words, James was very much influenced by historians of the French Revolution when he wrote The Black Jacobins. This is D. Elizabeth Glasgow. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.
Okay, guys. I hope you get oops. I hope you guys got a sense of C.L.R. James's book and the frame within which he writes. It wasn't Afrocentric. Wasn't an Afrocentric frame. Okay. If you were to, it wasn't an Afrocentric frame, or it didn't use the Afrocentric paradigm. It wasn't exposed to the Afrocentric paradigm. Yet it's an interesting beginning point to start thinking about subaltern studies and how it has progressed and developed into what we have today. I am going to talk about Haiti a little bit, and the fact that I believe that C.L.R. James was heavily influenced by European school of thought, although he's writing it from the perspective of the oppressed people, he's still writing within the mold of in a European milieu. Because he doesn't talk about Dessalines. He talks about Toussaint Louverture. He doesn't talk about Dutty Boukman, because those people have been sidelined in a sense. Lisa and Hopeton.
Yes, sir. Good evening. So I have a question as it relates to Haiti and its practice of ubia. All right, since I'm listening to you and going through the independence, the years of independence and so on, a few thoughts came to my mind. And one of the thoughts was the exposure to some other culture that might have been introduced to the Caribbean. And I was wondering if the Haitian was being exposed to Hobia through some of the other cultures that, oh Lord, I'm trying to put the sentence properly together. Some of the other cultures that was being exposed to them. So they gravitate to Hobia and have it now as one of their major spiritual practice. Was it so, sir? I don't even know if
they weren't exposed. They brought it was part of. They brought the Africans. They practiced that as part of that came from them. They weren't exposed. It came from them. But I think Dutty Boukman came from. I'm going to talk about Dutty Boukman and Cécile Fatiman and so on, and how they brought that was part of their tradition from Africa, ancestral worship and appreciation for the ancestors and for the earth and so on. And so part of the idea of Obiaifo, the practice of that, involved ancestral worship, but also the use of herbs and spices and the earth as well. I don't know I just said to you, I believe that some of the indigenous people that live in the Caribbean, they were also some of them came from Africa. I believe they came from Africa as well. There's a lot of them came from Africa and settled throughout the Caribbean as well, because they were traveling to the Caribbean before the Europeans were. So it's not that they were influenced, because say, for example, you find Santiri worship, which also is similar to Obiaifo and Vodou. They all have similar in terms of practices. By the way, it's not a religion; it's a practice, it's a tradition, it's a practice. Upton.
Afternoon, evening again. My point was going to have something to do with the involvement of the many Jamaicans who provided counsel and guide and some sort of leadership to the Haitian Revolution. And in all the discussion that we've been having, I have not heard any mention of them. So when you mentioned that CLR James was sidelining Dessalines and others, I was hoping that you'd look to include the role played by Jamaican slaves, Jamaican runaway slaves in the independence fight of Haiti.
Yes. That's part of the lecture I prepared. There are several notable people who I want to actually talk about. I'm going to have to end class early today because there's something happening. But next week I'm going to pick up from there and talk about people like I'm going to talk about that a little bit.
That Boukman is one of them.
Who?
What was Boukman so related?
Yeah, Dutty Boukman. Yes, yeah, Dutty Boukman came from Senegambia. He's if you go to the timeline, I mentioned him a little bit. because yes, Dutty Boukman came from Jamaica to Haiti and started, and of course he started Obia in Jamaica and then went to Haiti and did and it became, by the time he went to Haiti, it became Vodou, but they relied heavily on their spirit. And because I talk about Dutty Boukman, of course, Boukman was a Jamaican-born enslaved African, believed to have been taken from Senegambia or possibly from a broader West African Islamic tradition before being enslaved in Jamaica and later transported to Saint-Domingue. Of course, he ran away, and I said to you, he was powerful and attracting. He became a powerful spiritual and revolutionary leader associated with the famous Bois Caïman, a ceremony which was in August of 1791, which is often regarded as the symbolic beginning of the Haitian Revolution, because the Haitian Revolution started in 1791. Dutty Boukman, again, was a revolutionary leader in Haiti, remembered as one of the sparks that lit the Haitian Revolution. He was Jamaican-born, taken to Saint-Domingue. His importance is tied to Bois Caïman. He matters because Haiti Revolution was not only military, it was spiritual, African, communal, and collective. Nanny of the Maroons was an Obia woman. Okay, Boukman reminds us that the revolution began not in Europe's book, but in the forest among the enslaved, where freedom whispered first. Alongside Boukman, there was another African-born revolutionary, Jean-Jacques Dessalines. He declared Haiti's independence in 1804 and is regarded in Haiti as the nation's true founder. Outside of Haiti, the leader of the revolution is Louverture Toussaint. That's why I don't appreciate Sailor James. It's a good starting point, but he's influenced by European thinking, and he was trained by some of the best schools in Europe or in America. Okay, but but those people had good intentions, but they are still suffering from a center that is still far away from their center. Okay, because they are still recognizing other people, because so Dessalines declared Haiti as independent. Unlike Toussaint, Dessalines rejected compromise with France. Toussaint wanted compromise with France and pushed the revolution towards complete independence. I actually have a PowerPoint presentation and prepared to talk about that today, because that's my next point. Talk about, I deliberately played that because Hopeton, that you are reading and thinking ahead, I like, because that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. Unfinished Revolution, Haiti, the Caribbean, and global power. Okay, and
Sir.
Yeah.
Dr.
And of course, one more thing before you chime in, because I also want to talk about Cécile Fatiman. Cécile Fatiman is remembered in Haitian history as a Vodou priest, Mambo, and one of the spiritual leaders who helped ignite the Haitian Revolution. She is one of the most important women in Haitian revolutionary memory, although she was often received far less attention, okay, than male leaders such as Toussaint and Jean-Jacques Dessalines. She was a Mambo Vodou priest. She co-led a secret ceremony with Dutty Boukman. She invoked the spirits, Iwa. It's called Iwa, the spirits, Iwa, and encouraged enslaved Africans to unite against slavery. Later traditions identify her as the wife of Jean-Jacques Perrault, the guy who marched into Dominican Republic in 1822, who later became president of Haiti. And of course, Bois Caïman was a wooded area in Saint-Domingue, now Haiti, where a secret gathering of enslaved took place on August 14, 1791. It was Cécile Fatiman with Dutty Boukman who arranged that symbolic beginning of the Haitian. That meeting started the Haitian Revolution. Okay, they came together secretly, and the meeting was both religious and political. They pledged to overthrow slavery, and they planned a revolt. Okay, and so that's quite powerful. Yes, go ahead, Lisa.
Right. So going back to Haiti, slave revolution. So while I was listening to the tape, I was doing a little jotting, and it said it started in 1781, but I heard you said 1791. Did I hear incorrect?
I have 1791. It started August 14, 1791. Yes.
Oh, okay. Let me make that correction then. All right, that's it, sir.
Yeah. Because that was when they planned the revolution, when they came together and planned the revolution. Um, um, uh, who made the Haitian Revolution? That's coming up in, notice that. Oh, that's a picture of Dutty Boukman, revolutionary priest and freedom fighter, Jamaican-born enslaved African, transported to Saint-Domingue, spiritual leader. He led the famous Bois Caïman ceremony in 1791. That's when they planned the revolt and the uprising. And he could read the Quran. He was a Obia. He practiced Obia practitioner and Voodoo practitioner. They relied on the African ancestors and so on. That's why they outlawed. That is why the British outlawed Obia, because what it meant, they came together and prayed, and because it was a spiritual revolution as much as if it was military. So they said it provides opportunity for them to come together. Okay. Cécile Fatiman, as well. Um, but I'm gonna end the class. I'm gonna end the class. You know what? There's something. Can you give? Let's take a quick 5 minutes break, guys. Let's take a 5 minutes break. Um, Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. I had a family emergency. Um, we've been talking about the Afrocentric paradigm for a reason. And I think Christopher alluded, I asked the question I don't know what I'd ask you guys to do. And one of the things I ask you, is it written within and from an Afrocentric paradigm? So no, Sarah James' book is not written from an Afrocentric paradigm. When I ask you to interact with a piece of writing or to engage a piece of writing, that's one of the things you do. Fine, I deliberately played that video. I didn't agree with it. I don't necessarily agree with Sarah James' point, but I appreciate it. He's writing from a subaltern or post-colonial milieu, but it is still not post-colonial enough. Okay? It is still a watered-down version. What you do is it's a black man writing within a white milieu still. Okay. Am I recording? Okay, I'm still recording.
Yes,
Okay.
you are.
All right, it's a black writing within a white milieu. Okay, so that's how when I ask to engage a piece of writing, now you have a frame within which to critique. You critique much better now because now you understand what Afrocentric paradigm is. You understand post-colonialism, subaltern, and so on and so forth. And then you can also look at your studies, your practices. I mean, Christianity. Sorry, Obia, Lisa, was made illegal in 1882 after it helped to spur revolutionary movements by enslaved people. Okay, calling on their ancestors, using their practices, what they know. Okay, their medicinal practices, and so on. But we played that. I want to talk about the unfinished revolution, Haiti, the Caribbean, and global power and Caribbean. Haiti and the meaning of freedom, revolution, sovereignty, empire, colonialism, race, debt, and identity. Haiti's unfinished struggle. By the end of this lecture, students should be able to explain the significance of Haitian Revolution, discuss Haiti's impact, analyze the relationship between Haiti and Dominican Republic, which you won't be able to do until next week, probably when I present that study. Examine imperialism after formal independence, evaluate competing interpretations of the Haitian Revolution, connect Haiti's experience to globalization and the global South. So we said that Haiti Revolution was between 1791 to 1804. It started at Bois Caïman. It's a place where the slaves came together secretly. Okay, and it was a spiritual gathering using their own spiritual practices. Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm good. I mean, Christianity really is nothing is wrong with Christianity, just so you know. Okay, I'm just saying that it was introduced to the Caribbean as a foreign mission to people who had no faith, no practices, no religion. Okay, I think remember, nothing black, no good. Okay, nothing black, no good.
Like seriously,
white.
sir? Are you serious?
No, not black, no good. Nothing black, no good, Lisa. That's the same.
No. That's not the term I'm talking about. The way our Christianity.
What I'm saying.
The way our Christianity came in the Caribbean. That's what I'm asking. If that's a fact.
Hold up, I can't hear you. You're breaking up because my speakers are acting weird, funny. Hold up, let me just fix it so I could hear the thing. Say that again, Lisa.
Okay, you said the way Christianity came to the Caribbean is as a result of those who don't have any practice or any spiritual practice or anything like that. So I'm asking you if that's a fact. That's how it came about, Christianity.
I mean, we're going to talk about Caribbean theology later on, and but one of the questions I say to you is it's sometimes very difficult to engage in research and studies like this because you're learning stuff about yourselves and then so the question is, how do you reconcile between the two? Hopeton.
Professor, I if I'm wrong, you can correct me. But Boukman went to the aid of Haiti
Yeah.
after being exposed to the rebellion in Montego Bay, the Sam Sharp rebellion, I believe it was, that led all along that coast, Montego Bay and over back to Westmoreland.
Yes.
And he would have been exposed to Sam Sharp as a Baptist minister, and would have seen how religious practices were used to unite the Africans, because it allowed a certain amount of trust from the white slave owners, knowing that the blacks were practicing Christianity. Although after Christian church, they went into their planning of their revolution. So he would have carried some Christian influence with him, or the power. Let me not say Christian influence, but the power of religion with him to Haiti, I believe.
I mean, he was very educated, you know. I mean, one thing about the African, when you ask it to, how do you define, what is the characteristic of the African? They were inclusive. They weren't competitive. We said that earlier in the class. When you look at the characteristic of the African, they were inclusive. They were not competitive. So they relied on a multiplicity of resources to guide them. So yes, I could see them, I could see that happening indeed, because they weren't competitive. They draw their strength from several different sources. They embrace several different people. They share what they know. Of course, I said that Dutty Boukman could read the Quran, as well as he practiced Obeah and as well as Vodou, and some of these practices also involve Christian. I mean, we talk about in the 80, what they call it, the Great Revival. Pocomania involved Christian traditions in addition to African traditions. So it's quite interesting, but that there are those who practice that. So yes, he could have been influenced by some of in Jamaica was Jamaica. I mean, a lot of the slaves who came to Jamaica and Saint-Domingue, they were quite very powerful, educated people. You know, somebody talk about the princes of the Caribbean. I mean, the people who came to the Caribbean, and the Pian people, that my dad would say, and the Pian people, they got the best of the best people. And some of them were indigenous peoples too. Some of the people in the Caribbean were indigenous. They were, some of the people, all of them weren't, some of them were indigenous, but some of the very same indigenous people were shipwrecked that came from Africa thousands of years before, and that started to develop life within the Caribbean. And they had that faith, tradition, and practices in addition to the faith to what new Africans were coming with and the slaves were coming with, and so on. Andre Simpson, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I was saying a lot of our religious, or even our folk music is a mixture, our folk forms is a mixture of African origins and mixture of African origins or traditions along with Christianity. Revival is one of them. So
yes.
The revivalism basically is a mixture of the African practices and the Christian belief. You have two branches of that. So yeah, it stems from the mix of the two.
You have two branches, yes, and we're gonna this class. I've dedicated this class to talk. I don't want to delve into it too much, but we're gonna talk about Obeah being one of the. That's why I believe that we have to be careful about discriminating against. Say, for example, they made Obeah illegal, yet the revivalist tradition, the revivalist people, they practice Obeah. It is a practice in the revivalist church. They have some revivalist church here in the U.S. Some Jamaicans came to the U.S. and formed revivalist church here, as well as also in the U.K. They have so you know when we talk about Obeah, they're congregations that have the marriage of African traditions with some European faith traditions as well within the revivalist church, and they're able to do a very good job in doing that. We will hopefully have some time. I don't believe that Reverend Richard Beckford, when he comes to talk about Caribbean theology, is going to necessarily hone in on African traditions in terms of talking about the various strands and what they are. So I'm going to spend some time probably sharing that after he talks about Caribbean theology. He would probably use Garnet Roper's book to talk about African Caribbean theology. So he probably would talk about that a little bit using Garnet Roper's book. But of course, I want to branch off a little bit. I won't go deep in this class because this class is not geared toward African spiritualism and African faith tradition, but I'll probably entertain or facilitate a discussion into that. The conversation at the seminary in terms of African tradition demands a whole course, which I don't believe that the seminary is set up to, will probably to do that, is going to be able to facilitate a discussion that explores African faith traditions and the historical development of African faith traditions, and whether or not that is meaningful in terms of in our Christian tradition and our faith outlook. It's but it's something to contend because it probably will make us understand how we worship. Because when you look at Christianity and how Christianity was introduced to us, there wasn't much movements and so on in terms and music and drumming. That's something new to the whole Christian experience. It was not the way how it has evolved. Yeah, well, music was part of the church, but the way how it became movements and drumming and so on became part of the church's experience. That's been influenced by some African traditions and African culture as well. I asked the question: should theology transcend culture? And then when you start to think about Judaism and how the Jewish faith was really one that is cultural, and their practices is based on preserving the Jewish identity, which over time became synonymous with a faith tradition. But that's something that we can discuss later on. But yet still, we can talk about that in terms of...
Or the reverse, sir.
Huh?
Or the reverse.
Or the reverse, yes. Should culture transcend theology or vice versa? Haiti's independence in 1804 did not merely free the western side of Hispaniola. It shook the entire colonial world. Yet the meaning of independence on the island became contested. Haiti's victory over France marked the first successful Black republic born of an anti-slavery revolution, but France and other colonial powers refused to recognize that freedom as legitimate. So in 1825, France forced Haiti to pay a massive indemnity in exchange for recognition, turning liberation into debt and punishing Haiti for daring to defeat the empire. The history also complicates Dominican independence. The eastern side of Hispaniola experienced different claims of sovereignty. Haiti was forced to pay 150 million francs. France demanded compensation for former slave owners. And of course, Haiti borrowed money to pay France, which crippled the economy for generations. Just so you know.
Up to now, sir, the economy is crippled up to now.
I mean, Haiti? Yeah. Yes, up to now. And I think RST was trying to get back the money that they had to pay. Because if they never had to borrow the money and pay back France, probably 150 million francs at the time was trillions of dollars. Okay? At the time, 150 million francs in 1825 was a huge sum. Okay, in 1825, which helped to impoverish the country because instead of them using money to help to develop their country, now they have to be using it to pay back France. Okay. The history also complicates Dominican independence. The eastern side of Hispaniola experienced different claims of sovereignty. Spanish rule, a brief declaration.
Sir,
Yeah,
may I say something, please?
go ahead.
You know, sir, this teaching is very important, and it forces me to think. And you know what came to my thought just now, sir?
What's
All
that?
right, Jamaica is not very far from Haiti, because we
No.
keep borrowing too much money, and then we are not developing the way we should. Yes, I mean, the only thing we see that is really happening, that we can say we do something and it's not really benefiting us in the long run, our children and grandchildren, is our highways and the roads and all those constructions. you know I am seeing Jamaica pretty close, hand in hand with Haiti, years to come.
Jamaica is not
if
close to Haiti.
if if if
Jamaica is
if
in no way close to Haiti.
yes, I said years to come, Upton, if they continue on the same path.
To say that Jamaica is close to Haiti
I say years to
is to
come.
insult the suffering of the Haitian people. Their suffering is outside the capacity of most of us to think.
Upton, I believe if we continue the way we are doing it now in borrowing money, yes, our children and
Um,
grandchildren
well,
will.
I think.
Lisa, we cut our debt to GDP ratio from 140% to just over 60%. We are not doing that crazy borrowing. We are not in the league of suffering or on the road of destruction and destituteness that Haiti is. If we think we are, man, we insult the Asian people.
Jamaica is doing well. There's a lot of lessons to be learned from Haiti. Haiti provides an opportunity for us to learn from how countries can become impoverished. Okay, and of course, and that's very important for other Caribbean countries to learn from that. Jamaica and other Caribbean countries are not heavily dependent on loans from the IMF or the World Bank, although I think they are almost paid off all of the funds, but now they are looking to the Chinese. So of course, China has invested heavily in the Caribbean. They have spent billions of dollars to modernize our ports. They have spent billions of dollars to on in terms of finishing the highways, so that majority of the funds that comes from the modernization of from the ports and from the highways, and the money's collected at the toll booths and stuff. Most of it goes back to China to pay back for for the investment that they have provided Jamaica. Of course, the U.S. does not appreciate the investment of the partnership between Caribbean countries today and China, and they are doing they're doing various things, in other words, to stymie the growth and the development of the Caribbean. Caribbean development and growth challenge the competitive prowess of Canada and the US. And I'm telling you, if Jamaica continue to grow and to develop like this, then of course you're gonna have it's gonna be reactionary, because so that is why the US is now charging taxes on remittances. They are charging tariffs and so on and so forth to ensure the dominance of the US. Jamaica's and Caribbean dominance threaten the dominance of the dominant country in this region, just as how Ukraine was challenging the dominance of um of Russia. Venezuela was challenging the dominance of the US in terms of the dominant oil producing country and what they were doing. But Haiti was, so yes, Kenyatta.
Hi, good night, sir. I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
Because I'm hearing quite a few things shared here, and we have to also be careful that we're inserting our personal beliefs and interpretation of certain stuff.
Yeah.
Because we've been seeing over the years, I think it was maybe 2024 or 25, I could be wrong. Because I know one of the deal is between Jamaica and the Chinese government is the fact that they're the one who is going to build up the ports, roads, for example, right? And in order for them to get back their repayment, I think it's 48% or something like that, that belongs to, are retained by the Jamaican government. The other rest is what the Chinese government retain as their repayment as to develop the ports and the roads. But as soon as those agreements are completed, it's handed back over to the Jamaican government. And we saw that recently where the public was able to purchase into the shares agreement as well for the road. So, I mean,
Trans Jamaica, Kenyatta.
Trans Jamaica Highway, right?
Yeah,
and we're seeing that where more of that is in the pipeline to be released coming later on this year into 2027, into 2027, right? So some of the thing I really do understand the historical effect on the Caribbean, particularly Jamaica and so forth. But we have to also be very realistic in our analysis of some of this data and how we're putting forward that, because persons will believe, right? I'm not saying that we're not sell out certain things. Of course we do. We really and truly do. But the reality is government makes some bad deals and they make some good deals, because we saw where quite a few Jamaicans were able to invest long-term into some of these things because it now belongs to us, right? So there's a caution here. So before we push certain beliefs and personal thoughts and feelings out there, let's look at the facts. The information are also there where persons can look into as well.
Yes,
right.
And
that's just pushing that out there.
Yeah, man, that's very important. Chinese investment in Jamaica centers they loan. I mean, I think the loan is for $2.1 billion. Okay, it's $2.1 billion. Chinese invested $2.1 billion in Jamaica. The roads and infrastructure, Highway 2000, mining and natural resources, tourism and real estate, automotive and manufacturing, telecommunications, so on and so forth. It means the benefits of Jamaica: improved transportation and connectivity, job creation, technology transfer, increased tourism, yes, expanded consumer options, and so on and so forth. That's what China is about, though. China China had the poverty was one of the worst in the world, and now they have cut poverty in half. China's investment in the Caribbean is interesting because China is the US major competitor. The idea is China is modernizing and investing in these Caribbean countries. It therefore means that the Caribbean countries is going to become more competitive. That challenges the dominance of the US in the region. Now, that is something for us to think about as well. This whole class, if you look at the class and where we are going, we talk about whenever you have progress, it's quickly wiped away because that progress challenges the status quo. It challenges the dominant class. If we got independence and we got freedoms, but then they turn around and turn it into something else to maintain their dominance. If China is competing with the US, one of the best ways they can compete with the US is providing the kind of investment that they're providing in the Caribbean to grow the Caribbean. That will now cut the US dominance. That's I mean, as economists or as academics, that's beautiful for us to study and to think about. That's very important to think about that. By the way, just so you know, in terms of China's loan to the US, to Jamaica, when we talk about debt to the Caribbean or Jamaica in particular, Chinese loan, there's a loan, represents about 3.9% of Jamaica's $2 trillion debt portfolio. So right now, Jamaica's debt portfolio is $2 trillion. That's a lot. Okay, $2 trillion. And 3.9% of that debt is what represents Chinese loans to Jamaica, which the Jamaican have to pay back over a period. So lend us $2.7 billion, but we are going to pay back more than that, okay? Because there's interest rates tied to that. But that's something for us to think about and to consider as well. We have to the money that comes from that goes back to China. That the same, and we provide, but not only that, we're improving. But what does that mean about our geopolitics? You know, that's something to think about. China was Haiti was. I heard that Haiti was a place a lot of Jamaicans used to go to Haiti in the 80s and the 90s to buy goods and services. I mean, to buy and to come back to Jamaica and sell. That's not happening anymore. However, there's a part of Haiti where people are still going to. The Haitian government, there's a Haitian elite, and the Haitian elite provided a 50-year moratorium to the Clinton family to drill for minerals. Okay. You know, so I mean, it's not far-fetched to think about these things, but please remember Wall Street, guys. Black people in certain parts of the US, there was Black Wall Street, and it was burnt down. Nobody was ever held responsible for that. Well, they were becoming too wealthy. Okay. But we're going to stop here because it's 10 o'clock. We're going to pick up from where we left off. We're going to wrap up by talking about Hispaniola, one island, two histories, why Haiti unified the island, Dominican nationalism, anti-Haitianism, who made the Haitian Revolution. We started talking about it. Is it Toussaint? Was it enslaved Africans, field workers, Maroons, women, Vodou leaders, communities, collective resistance? Dutty Boukman a little bit, Cécile Fatiman, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, so on and so forth. The revolution never ended. After independence, Haiti experienced diplomatic isolation, economic sanctions, foreign debt, elite betrayal. They tried to kill Aristide. I remember in the 1990s, Aristide became the president and things were going in the right direction. And the next thing you know, they tried to assassinate him and kill him and so on and so forth. Haiti in the 21st century. You know, we have to, what can we learn from that so that we don't make the same mistakes as much as, so Lisa, yes, it's a good thing. I understand where Lisa is coming from. You, as Black and brown countries, formerly post-colonial countries, we always want to learn from some of these things so that we don't make the same mistakes. And I say that that's why we have to be strategic in terms of our development. Jamaica under Michael Manley, Bob Marley and Caribbean Freedom, reading Caribbean history. We'll wrap up with that next week. Some important discussion question for this class. Why did Haitian Revolution frighten European powers? Why? That puts into perspective what Lisa is saying. Why did Haitian Revolution? Why does Jamaican development? Why is that? How can that pose a threat to American dominance and competitive prowess? In terms of, you find that, why is it that the U.S. Donald Trump is imposing a tariff among Caribbean countries? I mean, why was Boyer unification occupation or protection? Was Boyer unification occupation or protection? Boyer is Jean-Pierre Boyer. He marched into Saint-Domingue in 1822 and unified the country. Was that a unification, occupation, or protection? How does debt function as a form of colonial control? See, for example, with Haiti, it's a form of colonial control. Jamaica with the IMF and the Caribbean with the World Bank and the loans that we got that at high interest rates, which were tied to conditionalities. How debt is a form of colonial control. Why are Boukman and Cécile Fatiman often marginalized in Western histories? Upton made that provided an understanding towards that in terms of what about the other people. And so the question is, why are Boukman and Cécile Fatiman often marginalized in Western histories? How does Haiti illustrate the relationship between independence and sovereignty? What parallel exists between Haiti and other Caribbean nations today? So yes, so I understand where Lisa is coming from, because you have to ask this question. We have to learn from the past. So because you always want to look at what's going on in around you. As academics, that's what we do. We never take anything for granted. So the question is, what parallel exists between Haiti and Jamaica, or Haiti and Cuba, Haiti and Guyana? And so, in Caribbean nations today. Key takeaway, Haiti transformed world history. Freedom was punished through debt. The Haitian Revolution was collective. African spirituality played a central role. Colonial narratives continue to shape Caribbean identity. Independence remains an unfinished struggle. Haiti remains central to understanding the Caribbean and global power. But I still think that if Jamaica and the Caribbean islands became too powerful, then you will see the reaction from the global north. You don't think you think the US is just going to sit down and let Jamaica become so developed? The GDP is going to be 5-6%. That's a problem. Okay. The US dollar must always be stronger than the Jamaican dollar. I'm just saying that. I'm not saying that's what I want, but the US dollar one US dollar must always be 151 Jamaican dollars. Okay. If it's the other way around, that's a problem. Andre.
Yes, sir. I was gonna say that it's all about power. It's a power play. And whoever have money will also have some amount of independence and, I guess, power in their own right. But additionally, sir, have you ever heard the term economic assassins?
Yes.
Right. So I think a lot of that.
I know exactly. I know that term very well. I know what you're pointing to. But to continue, yes.
Yeah. So basically, all these quote unquote aids that will come from time to time, what will happen is that these quote unquote advisors will say, well, in order for your country to come out of debt and stuff, why not sell out the country, privatize a lot of the things like your power, your sugar cane, or just giving over stuff, privatizing things. So literally, at the end of the day, you won't own anything. No revenue is staying in the country. And then what you find is that this quote unquote advisor is basically an assassin to basically get you to be basically have everything so privatized that you basically own nothing. So if everybody pull out, your country is in problem, basically.
But Marley say, I don't look to the east or to the west, I look to the I. But okay, fine. We look to the east, to the west, to the US, to the IMF, World Bank. That didn't work out the way how we wanted to. Now we're looking to the east. Is that better? You think China? Okay. China have their ulterior motive for doing what they're doing. Okay. And please remember that we're sandwiched. Yeah, we're sandwiched between Eastern ideology and Western ideology. But then again, I often wonder, why is it that as Caribbean people we are unable to pool resources together and come together and invest in terms of modernizing our ports without going to the Chinese and so on. I'm not, it's quite interesting. But, we have squandered a lot of our opportunities though, because Jamaica has been heavily invested into as well. And we have also squandered that money. We have also mismanaged funds. And now we have to go to overseas people to borrow money. Yes, Kenyatta.
Sir, I was just about to say that. Even in Jamaica, we mismanage funds so much, because I've worked in NGO in the Caribbean, in the US, and here a long time, and I've seen where there are so much opportunities for, I can share a perfect example with you. I remember there's a ministry in Jamaica, they would have received quite a large amount of funding from PEPFAR, which comes directly from the White House. And that money could have improved so many things over a 5-year period. But half of that budget was spent on one workshop. And we're not talking about millions of Jamaican dollars, we're talking about millions of US dollars. And when they asked that institution what happened to that money, we did training. You spend over $1 million on training,
Yeah.
right? I've been in rooms where I've been in meeting spaces and rooms where when you're having and so like of course you can blame these countries with their from the historical point of view, but you see when it comes to what like bringing it back home to Jamaica and other Caribbean countries, these countries make some stupid decision as well. They don't look at it from a long-term lens. They look at it from a short-term and what is the immediate effect, right? That the long-term effect, of course, is going to cause some discomfort, but what is it going to produce for the next 50 to 80 years to come, right? So there, we have to admit, say, we will self-make a bad decision right there, right? Yeah. For example, when Trump took office, what happened? Like Jamaica still has not felt the effect of Trump pulling USAID funding quite yet. Our healthcare system is in for a very rude awakening coming to the end of this year, because at least what saved Jamaica versus Uganda, Haiti, Trinidad, Barbados, what is saving Jamaica is the fact that, I mean, we make some bad money move and money management, but at the end of the day, one of the things that is so embedded within our culture is the fact that we like to save. We almost have a rainy day money, right? That's what Jamaica is actually operating off of as it relates to funding for the healthcare system and some community-based program. We are running at this moment on rainy day money, if we could put it in that context, right? We're seeing cases in Uganda where they're running out of ARVs. We are seeing where they're running out of critical medications for persons who are diabetic, hypertension, you name it, right? We're seeing where Haiti is, I don't even know, like pharmacies are closing down now in Haiti because they're not getting that required pharmaceutical support that came through all of those funding stream. But I'll share this last piece of something that we do very poorly. During COVID, and like wherever she is, we have to shout her out. She worked at the ministry. And I remember when we were writing that grant for one of those machines to go to the National Public Lab, she was the one who sat down and she wrote it out. She wrote out the proposal and she said, listen, we want the machine, but we also want all that is going to operate the machine. We want training for the staff. We want money after at least 5 years to have the reagents and the necessary supplies, all of that, right? She wrote in all of that. And that machine is what kept Jamaica through the entire COVID-19 pandemic, because that machine was what was recalibrated to do all the testing, right? Now, Trinidad also would have gotten one of those machines, but what they didn't do well was write their proposal in the way that it asks for maintenance and support of this machine for a certain period of time. So we don't always manage or put the smartest people in the room to advocate for our country as it relates to the systematic pieces, right? So we just have to watch and see. But you folks are correct. We also make some bad decisions, and it's just for time to catch up on us now.
Yeah. And as we wrap up this class, thank you so much, Kenyatta, for that. And as we wrap up this class, let me just wrap up this lecture. I really don't want to go into this next week, but I want to make the point that I said that Haiti's history complicates Dominican independence. The eastern side of the of Hispaniola experienced different claims of sovereignty: Spanish rule, a brief declaration of independence in 1821, Haitian unification of the island under Jean-Pierre Boyer in 1822, and then Dominican independence from Haiti in 1844. And I'll bring that up. Well, I mean, that's fine. Later Dominican elites framed Haitian rule as foreign occupation, while Haitian leaders saw island unification as necessary to protect abolition and prevent European recolonization. Now, that conflict produced a bitter historical memory that still shapes relations between Haiti and Dominican Republic today. Even today, what they were going through today, Dominican does not. It's quite interesting with all that Haiti is going through. I mean, Dominica have not really opened itself to providing any kind of support and resource sharing with Haiti. All of they're on the same landmass. Now, European powers and local elites helped deepen that division between Haiti and Dominican Republic. Anti-Haitian ideology did not emerge by accident. It was cultivated through race and class and language and religion and political power. Dominican nationalism often defined itself against Haiti. And some leaders, I mean, I remember they carried out mass assassinations of Haitians. Okay, Dominican nationalism often defined itself against Haiti, and some leaders advanced whiteness as a way to separate Dominican identity from blackness and African heritage. This helped create policies and attitudes that treated Haitians as outsiders, even though both people share the same island and are bound by colonial history. I remember one year when Haitians were coming to Jamaica as refugees, many Jamaicans were opposed to them even coming to Jamaica. It's quite interesting, the hypocrisy. Anyways, Haiti's revolution has also been misread through European eyes. C.L.R. James, we said earlier, and Hopeton pointed that out too. James elevated Toussaint Louverture as a central figure. And Louverture was, Toussaint was indeed brilliant, but the Haitian Revolution was not the work of one French-trained military mind. It was also the work of Vodou Maroon residents, enslaved Africans, field laborers, women, spiritual leaders, local revolutionaries such as Dutty Boukman. Okay? To make Toussaint the sole founder risks repeating a colonial habit, recognizing black genius only when it resembles European education, discipline, and military order. So C.L.R. James really got it wrong a bit. So the struggle did not end in 1804. Haiti's independence remained under pressure through debt, diplomatic isolation, U.S. occupation, elite betrayal, foreign intervention, and modern forms of external control. The assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in 2021 deepened suspicions that Haiti's crisis is not simply internal. I interviewed some people about Haiti. I've done a lot of shows. We also started a petition about a Haitian-led solution to the problem. It's available as well. We've been I think in 2024. I was part of a petition. I wrote a petition asking many Jamaicans and Caribbean people and people in diaspora to sign a petition advocating for a Haitian-led solution, because people outside of Haiti was still controlling Haiti. And even after Jovenel Moïse was assassinated, the Prime Minister of Haiti was appointed by the US and people outside of Haiti, which created a rebellion. That's why there was so much infighting, because they wanted people was fighting, and they said, fine, people outside of Haiti is controlling stuff. So the locals started to react and to act out, because Haiti have a constitution in terms of who should take over Haiti, yet people outside of Haiti was appointed leaders. That was problematic to the Haitians. It was a slap in the face to the revolution that they fought for. That is why they were acting out, and rebels was trying to dominate. While claims of direct U.S. involvement remains unproven, and many Haitians and observers continue to point to the role of local elites and so on and so forth in terms of destabilizing the country. Now, just to wrap up here, this pattern is not unique to Haiti. Across the Caribbean and the wider global South, nations that attempt independent paths, like Togo or Congo, have often faced punishment. Cuba, Venezuela, Jamaica, and Haiti reveal the same imperial logic. By the way, I wanted to make the point about Burkina Faso, but I don't have time to talk about Burkina Faso and how they're doing it without foreign intervention. Anyways, but Cuba, Venezuela, Jamaica, and Haiti reveal the same imperial logic. When formerly colonized people choose sovereignty over obedience, powerful countries respond with sanctions, debt, covert pressure, withdrawal of aid, propaganda, or political destabilization. Jamaica's democratic socialist experiment under Michael Manning, for example, unfolded within the Cold War struggle between capitalism and communism, where the Caribbean became a battlefield for global power. Bob Marley understood this tension poetically. His music rejected easy categories. The Caribbean was not simply Marxist or capitalist. It was I and I, a spiritual, communal, and human vision beyond empire. Now that is why Caribbean history must be read carefully. We must not begin with Columbus, nor should we allow Europe to define who was civilized, who was revolutionary, who was legitimate, and who was free. So Haiti teaches us that independence is not only a date, it is continuing struggle over memory, sovereignty, debt, race, identity, and power. So to contend for our history is to expose the wider geopolitical forces that still shape Caribbean life today. Freedom was not declared in 1804, but the battle over its meaning continues. Okay? Just so you know. And we're going to stop there. Next week when we wrap up, I probably will just quickly talk about Dutty Boukman, who was an enslaved African. Well, I don't think I need to talk about him anymore, but maybe I could talk a little bit about him. But he was an enslaved Jamaican who freed himself and escaped to Haiti. He was a revolutionary leader, Jamaican-born. And of course, there's also, who else? Who was in terms of the independence of Haiti? Cécile Fatiman. We talked about her a little bit, so I don't need to go over that anymore. Who else? Dessalines as well. So, but I think next week we'll talk a little bit about them, because next week we are going to have a lecture prepared for next week. Next week lecture, where is it? We're going to talk about, next week lecture is entitled, let me see if I bring up the PowerPoint that I have. Where is it? I lost it. Oh. I'm sorry, give me a second, guys. I'm trying to find is this it? No, this it? What? Next week lecture, let me see if I could find it. Here it is. Lecture topic, Rethinking Dominican Independence, Haiti, Spain, Race and Empire. So we'll talk a little bit about that in the first hour, and then we transition. Maybe we might finish class early next week. And then the next class we're going to talk about is corruption in the Caribbean, and I'll play a video about corruption and so on and so forth. All right, that's about it for class today, guys. Thank you so much. It was a very good discussion. You were very engaged. And I usually end the class with prayer. This time I'm going to invite somebody from the class to pray to close us out. Anybody want to lead us in prayer as we go? Nobody wants to take the lead today? Somebody want to take the lead, just pray us. Who wants to pray and close us out today? I pray. Let us pray. God, we thank you today for an amazing class. Thank you for the students, for how they were engaged with the subject matter. I pray that you continue to empower us, give us wisdom, empower Jamaica and the Caribbean country, help us to bring about a strong Caribbean integration, Caribbean unity, so that we can not be too reliant on people who seek to use us towards their end goal and their endeavors for their dominance, Lord God. I pray that you'll continue to empower the students, give them wisdom, keep them united with the other countrymen. Help us not to think we are better than anybody else, but help us to be humble, give us humility and grace. Help us to be merciful with those who we encounter each day. Inspire us, inspire our writing, inspire our modus operandi and how we engage with those on the job, or if we're full-time students, help us, inspire us, Lord. When we write our papers, inspire us. And as you inspire us, help us to inspire others. We pray that you continue to grant us favor and help us not to be condescending, but help us to be inclusive and working to empower others. Lord, we pray that you will keep us safe from the dangers of evil, from those who seek to destroy us, those who seek to do evil. We pray that you will help us to be so powerful and so enigmatic, full of vigor and vitality. We tell you thanks, O God. Bless our finances. Those who have needs in their life, we pray that you meet them. Empower us to be able to bless others. Bless me to be able to bless others. Help us not to be selfish and think about our own needs, but help us, Lord God, to put ourselves in a position to be able to see where people need and to meet people at the point of their need. Lord God, these are the mercies we ask. Continue to grow the college, grow the university, financially, academically. In your name we pray, oh God. Amen. Okay, guys, thank you so much. And may you continue to walk good. All right, guys? You guys all right? You guys okay? Yeah? All right, we end class today. See you guys next week. Okay.